It is finally time to get back to the Locky Two-Step and Locky Trinity free parlay. Last year was a successful campaign in these free parlays. Quick recap on the stats here. We went 27 and 15 on the Locky two-step for plus 13.96 units and a 33% ROI, while the Locky Trinity was at 17 and 25 for plus 15.77 units and a 37% ROI. Remember, these are all 1 unit risks, so we were able to cash in on some solid plus money spots throughout the year. And I am returning once again to drop this free parlay every UFC fight week for you guys. But a reminder that I do drop it to the Patreon folks on Monday or Tuesday, depending on when I get my studying done. And that usually means that they get better odds once compared to when I drop it to the YouTube page on Fridays of fight week. So if you want early access to these parlays that I drop, check out the MMA LOTN Patreon page, where you not only get the parlays, but a ton of other great content covering all the different promotions that I cover as well. So, without further ado, well, I quickly want to say that I have not been able to have access to my studio all week, so I have pretty much just been doing, audio with some just a stagnant visual that I've been doing for the YouTube page. So I do appreciate the understanding in regards to that. But I will be back to the usual studio setup that I have next week. But for the first week of UFC fights, you have to bear with me with the current setup. All right, without further ado, let's get right into the Locky two-step. First step up is going to be Jose Johnson as he comes in against the returning Felipe Bunez. Now, Johnson actually did miss weight on the scale earlier today, but I do think he'll be fine when it all comes to fruition inside the cage. I think we'll see him establish his range and his reach, as he always does. Gets into his groove with his striking, with his straight shots down the pipe, some of his kicks up the middle, and I think it will show off good enough takedown defense here against Bunez, who's a BJJ black belt, but not the greatest wrestler. And I think that'll allow Johnson to keep this fight in the stand-up realm, where he should be able to counter most of the aggressive attacks of Bunez. And I think that will demoralize Bunez, just as we saw him get demoralized against Joshua Van last year. I think that will lead to Johnson picking up steam in the second and third rounds. And I don't think this weight cut will hinder his cardio too much, and that should allow him to go out there and still get his hand raised on the scorecards. But most importantly, cashing for us as the first step in the Locky two-step. The second step is going to be Nurullo Aliyev. He's been taking a lot of steam recently, but still very big favorite here as he takes on the short notice replacement Joe Solecki. Now, Aliyev has been out of the cage since February of 2023 after suffering a leg injury nearing the ending of that calendar year, and has been forced to sit on the sidelines for the entirety of 2024, but now he finally returns and tries to pick up where he left off. This guy's a very good wrestler and a great grappler, smothering his opponents and putting them through the ringer, eventually winning most of his fights on the scorecards, just as he did against Rafael Alves in his UFC debut. Look for him to do the same thing here against Joe Solecki, who is a BJJ black belt, but a little bit too comfortable off his back, which often causes him to eat up too much time, allowing his opponents to accrue a ton of control time and some solid shots from on top. And I think that's what we'll see from Aliyev here, so he can go on to win this fight on the scorecards. But just like Johnson, as long as he gets his hand raised, no matter what, Aliyev will be able to cash the second step in our Locky two-step, which I was able to lock in at minus 118 earlier this week. Now, with Johnson actually getting some action against him this week, obviously the weight cut didn't help with that either, and Aliyev taking some steam after I locked him in, there is actually no change in the odds here that I got for this two-legger parlay, as it was minus 118 when I locked it in on Tuesday, and it's still minus 118 today. Now we're going to go over to the Locky Trinity. We're going to set our eyes on the main event with Amanda Ribas, as she looks to go 2-0 against Mackenzie Dern. And I think that we'll see a similar pretty much showing from what we saw from the first fight, with Ribas doing a good enough job in terms of stopping the grappling and the takedown attempts of Dern, eventually leading to Ribas touching her up on the feet, blooding her up her nose a little bit, and then eventually winning this fight on the scorecards. I think Ribas will remain the superior striker here, and I think she has good enough defensive tactics here, especially with the poor wrestling game that Dern normally brings to the table. Look for Ribas to grind this fight out, specifically with a little bit of the clinch work, and then mostly all of her damage done in the striking realm with the straight shots down the pipe and a high activity rate as well. And that should be enough for her to win this fight on the scorecards. And when I locked it in earlier this week, for the 3-leg parlay, we're able to get plus 177, although there has been a little bit of action to bring that line down. Now we are able to get that parlay at plus 183. So again, a rare occasion here where the parlay is actually a little bit better if you lock it in on Friday rather than on Monday or Tuesday when I drop it on the Patreon page. All right, there you guys go. Locky two-step, Locky Trinity. Let's try to cash both of these spots and end or start the year on a high note. And I'll see you guys later today for the new edition of the prop drop. Stay tuned for that.